Hey, what's going on? Look at you. Aren't you just the inquisitive little adventurer? Probably like the new intro, don't you? The new soapbox intro. That's for my new series, alright? It's important. You probably won't see a cool series like this, not in a long time. So what is the voice of God? The voice of God lends itself to a variety of theories that have been produced in archaic times, when people would feel like what was happening to them is God was talking to them, and they have no way of describing what it was that they were witnessing. But today I'm gonna tell you guys maybe just a little bit about that, and we're gonna put a little tack on this mystery, put an attack on anything. I don't even know what that means, but we're gonna put a tack on it. Dude, alright, just be honest with you. Talking about seeing signs, alright? I know a lot of YouTubers, you get blokes coming in saying they see the signs in what you do. You do a sign, maybe you brush your hair a certain direction, and they sort of think it means something. It's very much one-sided. You don't really know what you're dealing with, you don't really know what you're doing, and people tend to get themselves into a lot of very sticky situations because of this. But I know how to put certain things into words, and I think for a lot of people who do experience sort of like the sign language, like voice of God-esque sort of thing, maybe I can help you out today. And for all those tubers who are afflicted by the masses of people sending the mail, the reason I know about this is the reason I know about this is because I've met a few blokes in my time who know about what this is. I've seen it happen to people, and I know people who have experienced people like this, but when it goes to all the right ways, this is not necessarily a means of suffering, a means of torture. I think what happens is when people first tap into this way of thinking, alright? I don't even say way of thinking, magical thinking, no. This is magic, alright? When this works to your benefit, it is a superpower. Some people say like, this is a combination of different things. But the reason I know that this exists is because of hospital cafeterias. I know, like, it's kind of a wacky thing. The first encounter I had with people who knew about this, I already kind of knew that this stuff existed, but there were people who were sort of doing this weird thing with their hands. I was like, you know, they were clearly communicating. I thought, like, maybe they just kind of knew each other. They were having a good time, having a joke. I spoke to them, they're like, no, we don't really know each other, but the common theme of this, all right, after talking with these guys, is like people who experience this don't necessarily talk about it as much as I think they would want to, or really understand it because of that. You're not nuts, all right? None of you are nuts. All the people who see the signs and what they do and it doesn't matter what it may be, all right? But they all sort of coincide and create this experience for the individual that caters to their psychology to boost them, all right? Not like chess pieces, but like silly, like matrix hacking sort of thing. When you see things like ghosts and things like that, you gotta do litmus tests. You gotta try and find a grounding medium that tells you that you're not nuts. You hearing whispers and stuff like that, like, oh, like that is probably something not a lot of people would want to experience, but as you sort of warm up to the presence of ghosts, you start to realize, like, whispering, all that stuff is that's such a privilege to have. If it's nice, of course. If it's nasty whispering, then it's not so fun. But the reason I say, like, you gotta get a few things in line. Visual confirmation. Alright, is there a sound for the source of the sound? I get a lot of tactile response. Not a lot, but enough. It's not necessarily that it's the actual voice of God. That's not what we're saying. This is not necessarily, it's maybe God's language, but it is not his language, his voice. It is something that is a culmination of a variety of different factors of things working for you in the environment, like deities that you can't even see. Because I know this happens with tubers a lot, alright? People will read your videos as code, as sign, or whatever. And this is why I need to explain this to people who have what's going on with them right now. It should only be ever to boost you. Alright, whatever this is going on, the language that is being portrayed to you should only ever be to boost confidence or boost morale, mood, or whatever it may be. If it's working against you or pushing you to do something, acting against your will, this is why in psychology, they're like, oh, magical thinking, this and that. They try and like desaturate the meaning from your life. Dude, don't listen to psychologists, alright? Only a little bit, just a bit. The voice of God is how all factors in the environment communicate with you and your thoughts. Things that give you meaning, colors, numbers, objects, certain phrases or words, running over your thoughts. It coincides to create quite a beautiful experience when it works the right way, of course. A lot of you guys don't have good experience with stuff like this, people like this. The way things move, certain things. I'm not gonna get too specific with this. I know there is some overlap with this thing, which is why it's so interesting. And at the same time, I do know it's on the fringe of questionable psychology. But at the same time, when you first get it, it's like living in a comedy skit. It's very intense, but it does sort of taper off, die down a bit, depending on how you're thinking. If you're sick, like physically ill, I know I don't really talk about like health too often on this channel. If things are not working with you, they're working against you, telling you that you're doo-doo, you're nothing, or whatever. It's usually physical illness. You might get some bleed through, like some try to pull you back out. But when it doesn't work for you, it is a brutal experience. It eliminates stuff like caffeine, any derg that you put in your system. If things are going bad, just kind of cut that stuff out. The voice of God, whatever this is connecting people, this is like a medium to begin the connection of the human race. When I first engaged with ghosts and stuff like that, it was probably like you, audience member, you get the sleep paralysis stuff, the whispering in your ear when you sleep paralysis at night, you wake up, it's like, what's that sort of thing. Ghosts aren't scary. Like, they're not. Like, when you actually engage with them, they're like people. They have inhibitions, they have flaws, and some of them are really great because they don't want to spook you. The ghosts are actually very, very courteous. And it's good that you keep that in mind. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Soapbox. I will likely be on to talk in the future about more stuff. So, until that day comes, bye-bye.